All right, and we are back live, man. All right, so today we're doing a quick prediction video on the fights later on this afternoon and later on tonight. All right, we got about 4 cards. Two are going to be on the Zone. One is going to be on Showtime, and one is going to be on Top Rank ESPN. All right. Um, first off, I just want to apologize to you guys for not giving you full breakdowns to some of these fights. It's been one of those weeks, man, and I just couldn't get around to doing a breakdown for these fights. I wish I did some of them earlier last week when I had time, but we were spending so much time talking about this Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford situation, and people are still talking about it. I mean, like literally every single day. Um, so I apologize for not giving you guys a full breakdown for some of these fights. Some of these fights are really, really good fights. I love the Joseph Diaz, William Zepeda fight. And I love the Lomachenko against Jermaine Ortiz fights. Wish I had more time, but you know what? I've seen enough film study to know and at least give you guys a quick prediction for these fights and move on. Okay. We're also going to talk about Jake Paul fighting Anderson Silva. I know I've been getting some requests in my emails and stuff like that in my DMs to do a breakdown for this fight. And it's really I understand, like I don't think a lot of people really care for it on my channel, but I think a lot of people care for it for betting purposes, especially with all the controversy of Anderson Silva's comments in a recent interview he did about him sparring. So we'll speak on that later. But I think I've been getting requests solely off the betting purposes, and also with Lomachenko and Jermaine Ortiz, because I did bring up the fight before. I did briefly speak about it before. I don't think it's an easy fight for Lomachenko. Okay. I like Jermaine Ortiz's chances a little bit better than Nakatani and Richard Coleman. Okay. And I'll explain why a little later as well. So I like his chances of winning and pulling off this upset. I don't really believe he will, but I like him as a fighter. I think he's a good fighter, and I think he won't be easy for Lomachenko tonight. All right. Shout out to everyone that's here. What's up, Ralph? What's up, Brendan? What's up, Nicholas? What's good with you guys? Nicholas, I will answer your question on Lomachenko and Ortiz, because I've gone back and watched, Ortiz's stuff, and I'm playing. I've been playing it in my head, trying to see if there's a scenario where Ortiz could beat Lomachenko, and because I think he is good. I do think he's good. And from what I understand, that they're familiar with each other. They sparred with each other. I mean, at this point, everybody sparred with each other at some point. All right, so let's start a little bit with let's start talking about Katie Taylor. All right, this real quick. I just want to do a very brief prediction with Katie Taylor against Karen Carabahal, which that card is actually on right now on the Zone. Okay, that's the early fight because that's a UK fight. And Katie, this is going to be her first fight since beating Amanda Serrano. Karen Carabahal doesn't really have, I looked her up. She's young. She's only 32 years old. She has about 19 professional fights, only, no losses. All right. Won all 19 of her fights, but she has like only 2 knockouts. Okay. I was trying to see how tall and how long she is, like what's up with her reach, but I couldn't find that information anywhere. I know she's a young, undefeated Argentinian fighter. She's clearly taller than Katie if you saw the weigh-in, but I watched her most recent fight. And even though she's a good boxer, I think she's pretty athletic. There's nothing that I've seen in her fight that made me think that she's a threat to Katie Taylor. And even though Katie is, she's 36, you know what I'm saying? You know, she's probably at the end of her physical prime. There's nothing that I've seen with Carabahal that made me feel like she can beat Katie Taylor. I mean, Katie is just, you know, arguably one of the greatest female boxers of all time. You know, whether you think Shields is or Katie is or whatever. I mean, there's nothing that I've seen that made me feel that Katie can lose this fight. All right. I think Katie beats her by decision, you know, if not stopping her. You know, I think Katie and her speed and her pressure is going to be too much for Carabahal to take it. The very inexperienced Carabahal. I mean, she's literally fighting, you know, other fighters that just are not that good. You know, they're just not that good. And she's undefeated for a reason because of their opponents are just not that good. And this is just too much of a gap, a jump up in opposition for her. You know what I'm saying? She's skilled. She can box, you know, and like I said, she's pretty athletic, but Katie has just about all of the advantages, and seeing her come back and beat Amanda Serrano the way she did. I mean, she's been in there with she's had some really, really tough fights. And I just don't see Carabahal being one of those fights. You know what I'm saying? So I have Katie winning this one by a decision, either a wide decision or maybe possibly stopping Carabahal. You just, he's just too good. You know what I'm saying? She's too good. All right. So that fight should be coming on. I think the ring walkouts is around like 6 p.m. Eastern time. So that card is actually on. I was just watching. I had it on the background when I was in here doing some stuff. That fight is going to be on shortly. Okay. All the other fights are later on this evening. All right. But this is on the zone. And also the Joseph Diaz, William Zepeda fight is also on the zone a couple hours after the Katie Taylor card is over. All right. All right. So again, and we're just gonna strictly talk about these 4 fights I have in the title: Paul Silva, Katie, and Carabahal, Diaz, Zepeda, and Lomachenko and Ortiz. All right. So just these 4 fights, and that's just quick predictions, man. I'm not gonna be on for too long, and unfortunately, I won't be able to cover the fights tonight. But I will be on probably first thing early in the morning to discuss and review the fights all together. All right. What's up, everyone that's coming in? What's up, Boxing Learner, Igor, Clarence, Nicholas, CCSYT, everyone that's here? Shout out to you. I hope everyone is having a great week. It's been a pretty shitty week of boxing, a lot of drama going on in boxing, but we'll discuss that later. All right, shout out to everyone that's coming in, and please give me a like on your way in. As soon as you jump in, hit that thumbs up. So let's talk about the next fight. Let's talk Jojo Diaz against William Zepeda. This is probably going to be this actually might be the fight of the night, depending on what you like. If you're looking for action and a competitive fight, this might end up being the best fight tonight. I think it's going to be, if I'm not including the undercards, right? I'm not including the undercards, but we're talking about the main events, the 4 main events of today. I think either this and Ortiz, this fight here between Zepeda and Jojo is either fight of the night, or Loma and Ortiz might be fighting tonight as well. I think that fight is going to be a good fight too. But I'm counting on this probably being the better fight because of just the styles. You know what I'm saying? So you got Jojo Diaz, more experience, you know, guy that hasn't fought. He hasn't fought since he lost to Devin Haney late last year. So it's been almost about a year now since he's been in the ring. A guy that's usually active. He was active last year, but this year he took the year off, and this is his first fight back in like 11 months or something like that, 10, 11 months. All right. So you got Jojo against William Zepeda, undefeated fighter, Mexican fighter. Lot of pressure, huge for the weight. Yo, he is crazy, and they actually fighting at weight. They're fighting like at 137, so they're not even fighting at lightweight. You gotta get it. You gotta remember, like JoJo was a featherweight like 4 years ago, right? He was a featherweight at like 4 years ago, moved up to super feather 130, fought a few fights up there, had Tevin Farmer fight up there, became a champ, missed weight, moved up to 135 now, where he is just not a big fighter at the division. Still very good, still giving us some good fights. Still sharp, still fresh, but yo, his size or his lack of size is a factor, you know? And I know he missed weight at 130. I get it, but I just feel like Joe really belongs at 130. But now that he's at 135, he's fighting a big lightweight, a very big career lightweight. And the guy that throws a lot of punches. He throws a lot of punches. Right now, William Zepeda is undefeated. You know, I think he has like 26 wins, 23 knockouts. He's clearly taller. He's a bigger man, you know, and he's a KO artist. He's a knockout artist, and he's a high volume puncher. No, he's not defensively gifted. I would probably give JoJo the edge when it comes to defense, but barely. Like JoJo is a good boxer. JoJo, what I will say about these are some of the strengths of JoJo. JoJo adapts to whoever he's facing. I will say that because if you look at him and you look at his resume, he's been in there with all kind of different fighters. He's been in there with pressure fighters, all right, guys that he banged with, went back and forth. He's been in there with some of the defensively gifted fighters out there. He's been in there with slick fighters. He's been in there with technicians. You know, he's been in there with a lot of southpaws. I mean, he's a southpaw in himself, and this is going to be a fight between two southpaws. But he's fought a lot of southpaws in his career. I mean, some of the best fighters he fought were southpaws. You know what I'm saying? So JoJo has he has a ton of experience, right? Only has 2 losses. He lost to Devin Haney. He lost to Gary Russell Jr. down at featherweight, all right? And he had a draw recently to Rachimov in a fight that you could make the argument it was very, very debatable. It was a very close fight. I remember watching that fight, and you can make the argument that Rachimov edged the fight. It was a very, very good fight. But a few things about JoJo. I don't believe that he's ever been dropped. You know, if he has, I don't think it was more in his recent fights. I mean, I know he's smaller here, but I know that he's pretty tough. He has a good chin. He's always getting cut. He's always getting headbutt cuts and stuff like that. Again, he can fight a scrappy fight, and he can box pretty good. You know what I'm saying? He can fight on his back foot pretty well. You know, and it's not like he can adapt to whatever fight you're bringing. But in this fight here, it might actually be a problem for him because he's going to be fighting a guy that's going to be throwing a lot of punches, using his size. All right. And JoJo wants to be the boxer here. He wants to be that. He don't want to fall into a trap and go into a war with a guy that's probably going to end up weighing about 15, at least upwards of 15 pounds over you, at least by the time that first bell ring, you know? So you want to box with him because you're not going to win a war with him. You know, it's going to be harder to win that kind of fight. Now, it might be very entertaining, and I think at points JoJo is not going to have a choice but to scrap with Zepeda because Zepeda is going to bring the pressure and the volume anyway. So he's going to be stuck on having to fight that kind of fight, regardless if he boxes, you know, if he's on the back foot, whatever he's doing, he's going to have to scrap with this dude. All right. Now, William Zepeda, I don't know what his like experience is with like southpaws, right? I didn't have time to really dig all the way back to see what southpaws he fought. because I know for a fact that JoJo is still, even though he's smaller, he's still by far the best fighter he's fought. You know, I saw the Rene Alvarado fight, and we know Rene Alvarado's tough with every fight. He loses a lot of fights. He does, but he's not knocked out. Like, no one's knocking him out. Rene Alvarado is tough. He's a dude that you cannot knock out. Like, the dude is a tough dude. And they went to distance in that fight. I think they went 10 rounds in that fight, 10 or 12. But Rene Alvarado is a tough fighter, but he's not nearly as skillful as JoJo Diaz, you know, and he doesn't have, you know, he's just not better than JoJo. All right. And I believe that JoJo would probably beat everybody that William has fought up to this point. But the thing is, William has power and he stopped just about almost damn near everybody he's fought, you know. So with that being said, I believe that William Zepeda is going to win the fight. All right. I think even though JoJo is going to get some rounds off and he's going to box good, I still feel that even though he can fight any type of fight, he's going to fall into that trap and making it a pretty scrappy fight. And I think at the end of the day, with the size and the durability of William Zepeda that we've seen from him at this point, I think it's just going to be too much for JoJo. But I'm not one to believe that Zepeda is going to stop him. I don't think that Zepeda is going to stop him. I think Joe has shown his toughness throughout his career, and I think he's fought some tough fighters. And I think that he loses, but I think it's going to be on point. All right, I think JoJo is going to do better than what people are giving him credit for. So I do think William Zepeda is going to win this one based on his activity. I think this is his third fight this year. JoJo Diaz has been inactive all year, and he hasn't been doing that well since he moved up to 135. I mean, let me just pull up his resume real quick and just go through the fights. I mean, I like JoJo. I would like for him to win, but when I look at his fights that he's had since he's moved up to lightweight, you got the Rakhimov fight, which was a draw, and you can make the argument that Rakhimov won that fight. I also think that the Javier Fortuna fight was much closer than what the scorecards tell you. I thought that fight should have been like a majority win or a split decision win. I don't think JoJo clearly won that fight, like the way that the scorecards, you got a 117, 110 scorecard here. You got a 116, 111. I don't think JoJo really has looked that great moving up to 135. And even though I think JoJo gave Haney, in my opinion, a tougher fight than Kambosos did in both fights, in my opinion. I think that fight was much more competitive. I think JoJo won about 4 of those rounds against Haney. You know, in fact, I don't think Haney's ever got hit as much as he did against JoJo, you know, but that him being a southpaw might be part of the reason, because we know Haney didn't really fight a lot of southpaws like that, right? So, yeah, Ralph said he had Fortuna winning the fight. You know, I don't know if Fortuna won, but I remember the end of the fight. I think I might have covered it live. I remember not being sure who won. You know, I think a lot of those rounds were swing rounds. And I remember watching it and not being sure. I was sitting there scratching my head like, yo, I really don't know who won this fight. So when I heard the scorecards and I saw how unanimous they were and why they were, I was like, yo, this is crazy. The fight was definitely a lot more competitive than what the cards is telling me. So with all that being said, I got William Zepeda winning this one. I think he's going to win a decision. I think JoJo needs to really box this one out, but I think he's going to fall into the trap and going and banging with Zepeda. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's going to be a mistake, because Zepeda, not only is he bigger, he's bigger, he's stronger, he punches harder, and he throws more punches. I just don't think that's the right fight for JoJo. And I think he's gonna start out boxing. Like when he fights other really good technical fighters, like when he fights a Tevin Farmer or a Devin Haney, for example, or even a Javier Fortuna, you know, who was like really explosive at one point, who kind of slowed down and he's relying more of his boxing ability in the recent years. JoJo fights at their pace. So he's going to have to find a way to slow down the pace. But I don't think he has the power to hurt Zepeda and slow him down. And I think that's the main issue with JoJo Diaz in this one. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Yusuf? What's good with you? I will not be here tonight, unfortunately. I will be here till first thing in the morning, giving you guys a review of all of the fights, but I can't cover the fights live tonight. I apologize, man, but I will see you first thing in the morning. All right. What's good, Woog? What's good with you? So yeah, that's how I feel. But it should be the best, if not the second best fight, probably the best fight of the night. So definitely tune in if you are looking for some boxing tonight. I would highly recommend this fight between JoJo Diaz and William Zepeda on the Zone. Okay. Yeah, so that's gonna be later on this evening. Katie Taylor is gonna be on in a couple hours. All right, those two are gonna get getting in a couple hours. All right, so that's my view on it. Again, sorry for not a full breakdown, but I think I just gave y'all enough information to really go with it. I think JoJo can really do some work with his boxing and really catching Zepeda with some good shots. He's the more experienced fighter. He's fought the better fighters. He's a southpaw. I don't know what Zepeda does against other southpaws. So there's a few things that you can bring up that falls like into JoJo's favor, but with the size, the power, the pressure, you know, I think when the first round starts, we're going to really see the big size advantage that Zepeda is going to have. I mean, that's a big dude that can easily be a welterweight. He's a big guy at lightweight. All right. So, yeah. So I got Zepeda winning, but I think he's not going to get the stoppage. So I think JoJo is going to go the distance, but win a tough decision. All right. All right. So what's next? Should we talk Jermaine Ortiz? Let's get this Anderson Silva Jake Paul fight out of the way. Let's do it. All right. You know, I try to do some film study for this fight. So I watched a little bit of Jake Paul against Tyron Woodley again. You know, I watched some of the first I watched some of the second one. Right, because I thought the second one Willie was a little bit more aggressive, right? So I went back and watched a little bit of that fight. I don't really think there's any other fight that that is worth watching, you know, because the first Woodley fight was kind of boring. You know, neither one of them really took any risk in that fight. And the fights previous to that one, it wasn't even against any really good fighters, like strikers. Like you had him against Ben Askren, who, even though Willie is not a boxer, Ben is just like a wrestler. And then it just wasn't really worth like watching these fights like that. And then you had Anderson Silva, which there is more there. You have the Julio Cesar Chavez fight that you could watch because Chavez Jr. is a former champion, right? When he was at 160. So there's something there, but you don't have much there for these fights, you know, and I really didn't really like, you know, when it comes to these fights, man, this is how I feel. I'm going to be completely like transparent. I don't think Tyron Woodley took a dive. Or I don't want to say I don't think he did, but I don't think there's enough for me to know for sure. I'm like more in between. Like, I don't believe he took a dive in that rematch because the punch was real. But the question was it set up? Was it agreed on? Hey, yo, here's a bag. Let me knock you out. It's not like that doesn't happen in boxing. It does. I'm sure it does. I mean, this is literally the most corrupt sport on the planet, in my opinion. So with that being said, I feel like this though. I'm not saying these fighters take dives, but I do believe that the matchmaking for Jake Paul is so good that it's made for him to win. The matchmaking, whoever does the matchmaking, makes it to where the timing is so right to fight these fighters to a point where Jake should win each fight, at least until he gets a bag that's so good that, okay, it's worth the risk and losing because the bag is so heavy and I'm fighting an actual boxer or a credible fighter where people will respect it and he'll earn his pay-per-view money. So that's my views on these Jake Paul fights. I feel that I don't think they're necessarily like against opponents against opponents that are going to take a dive or agree to taking a dive. I feel that the matchmaking is where it's set up to where Jake is going to win all this on every fight before he gets like a real 10, 20 million dollar bag. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about the fights. You know, at some point, he's going to fight a real boxer that is credible, you know, whether somebody's retired or whether it's somebody that, you know, that is relevant in today's or active. You know, I don't think like Canelo would ever fight him, but I feel that at some point, if he keeps going this pace and he keeps winning, at some point, someone that's credible, whether they're retired or active, is going to fight him. And it's going to be for a bag that's going to be worth that risk, where they can lead the matchmaking part of it out. And I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. That's how I feel about these fights. I could be wrong. It's just my personal theory on these Jake Paul fights. All right. Anderson Silva, who is one of the, if not the all-time great, you know, at least he's at least top 3 MMA fighters of all time, in my opinion. Anderson Silva is 48 years old. And to be honest, when I seen this video that these two dancing and the amount of, you know, what he said in the interview, like, look, I heard the interview with Anderson Silva where he said he got knocked out twice. I believe he meant knocked out. Take it how you want to take it. I don't think that anybody just casually will go up there and say, yeah, I just got knocked out 2 times before a fight. You know, I think his English is pretty good, but I don't think he meant knocked out. I think he honestly meant that he got dropped 2 times in sparring. All right. So that was a big issue. When he heard the interview, everybody heard the interview, everybody went nuts. All right. Like, yo, this guy got knocked out 2 times. I'm not putting any money on him. All right. But as a boxer, I think he's far superior than Tyron Woodley. Even at his age, I still think that he's far more superior than Tyron Woodley. All right. Just the way I look at it. You know, I mean, Tyron is younger. You know what I'm saying? I know he's more recent. He's, you know, he was still, you know, I mean, he was taking a lot of L's before he stopped the MMA thing. But I think as a boxer, Silva is just way better and more experienced, and his reflexes is why he still can do pretty good as a boxer up to this point. Because in his physical prime, which we're far past it, and I've said this to you guys before, certain fighters, that physical prime, when they're in their physical prime, their reflexes and their athleticism are so good that even when they're old, they're still pretty damn good. And I feel like Anderson Silva, the reason why he's looked good in his recent fights and the way he, you know, beat Chavez Jr., it's because he is he's really naturally gifted. Like he's a athlete. Like it's things that he can do incorrectly, but he's so gifted as a fighter overall that he's able to do the things that he can do, you know? So I do respect him, even as a boxer. I think he's pretty good. Yes, he still has some awkwardness to him. There's certain things that I've seen him fight when he's fighting that is a little bit awkward when it comes to boxing, as opposed as to most of the boxers we've seen on a regular top tier boxers. There's a lot of things that he does awkward. And I think that can be a good thing when it comes to him boxing. But it could also be a bad thing because some of the mistakes, some of the positions he's in, I think it could be an issue for him. All right, when he in his fight later on this evening. All right. So with that being said, what do I think about this fight? I think Anderson Silva is going to lose the fight. I don't know how he's going to lose it. I don't know if it's going to be by knockout. I don't know if it's going to be on point. Even though I think Anderson, when I look at the both of them, I do think Anderson Silva is just more fundamentally sound. I think he's the better athlete between the two. I think he's a better boxer than the two. I just don't believe that a 48-year-old Anderson Silva is going to beat Jake Paul tonight. I know the win against Chavez Jr. was good because Chavez is a former champion, but you got to look at that fight. You got to look at the punches that are landed against Silva. Silva was able to eat those punches because he's fighting a guy that was in his prime at middleweight. Okay. Anderson Silva fought a light heavy, or like he fought like at 190, like his whole MMA career. He's naturally bigger than Chavez Jr. So he's able to absorb the power, even though Chavez is heavier in that fight. Chavez in his physical prime should not be fighting anywhere above like super middleweight. You know what I'm saying? So when I seen Chavez land some of the hooks and some of the big right hands that he landed, I felt like, well, if Silva fights someone that is bigger, like a cruiserweight type of big, and he gets hit with those same shots, it's not going to be as good. He has been knocked out before. And again, he is 48 years old. He's taking the damage. I don't know. Oh, my bad. A said 185 in the UFC. Okay, so he fought at 185. Regardless, he is naturally bigger. He's fought at a bigger weight his entire career. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel that the Chavez Jr., yes, it's a good win against a boxer. It's better than what Jake Paul has given us. But at this stage, at Chavez Jr.'s career, man, I mean, he just loses any random fight that he's involved with. Mentally, he doesn't have the strength to want to continue. He backs out of every fight. Every time he's in there, he quits. How many times has he quit in the fight? He's the total opposite of his father. And I like him. I liked him because he's the son of a legend of this. Chavez Sr. is literally boxing royalty. So we all wanted to like him. And yes, Chavez Jr. in his absolute prime, like he beat Andy Lee. Like he's a good fighter. And he is a former champion. But he has been far from his physical prime in many, many years. It's been years since Chavez Jr. was anywhere as like close to being in his physical prime. He's not even near. Let me just look him up real quick, because I haven't looked at his resume. I know he's just been like taking random fights and loses fights and stuff like that. But I mean, when I look at like, he fought Sergio Martinez 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. It's just, it's been too long ago. His best win was against Andy Lee, and that was 10 years ago. That was right before the Sergio Martinez fight. That was a long time ago. I mean, since then, even when he moved up and fought Brian Vera, remember those two fights, him going up to 168 and then him going to 175 to fight from Farah. At that point, he wasn't even in his prime anymore. He just wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just don't know what Chavez could do at this point, man. I mean, um, he did pick up a win last year. All right. After he lost to Silva, he did pick up another win in 2020. He took a couple of losses before that, one in 2020, one in 2019 against Danny Jacobs. Um, I just don't think I what I believe is, as a boxer, I do think Chavez Jr. in his prime was probably more superior than what we're getting out of Anderson Silva. All right, but I just don't know, man. I keep talking about Chavez Jr. Jake Paul, like, again, I think a lot of his fights are based on timing. All right. And I think they do a hell of a good job matching them up with people that he shouldn't win against, but he does win against. All right. And I think a lot of it is based on timing. So even though this is a huge upgrade from Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren and Nate Robinson, this is a huge upgrade, because I do believe Anderson Silva would have beat Tyron Woodley as well. I still feel that it's about the timing. And Silva being a couple years, he's 48 years old. I just don't know how he holds up in this fight here. I don't know how many rounds it's going to be. I do think he's better, but I just think it's the time where, like, I don't believe in this fight. I don't believe in it. I just personally don't. I think, when I first heard it, I thought, like, Jake Paul's not going to beat Anderson Silva. Silva boxes way better than Jake Paul, in my opinion. But, when I look at their fights and I'm like, I can see Jake Paul winning this fight. I can see Paul winning. I don't know. Igor says 8 rounds is 3-minute rounds. Yeah, I got Jake Paul winning. I don't know if it's going to be by knockout or stop points, but I'm not believing this, man. I'm not believing this, man. I don't think this fight is going to go Silva's way. Whether he's taking a dive or not, I just don't believe it happens. Just my opinion. I'm picking Jake Paul to win this somehow, some way. He's going to pull off the win. There was a part of me that didn't even think he would beat Tyron Woodley, because Woodley was so explosive as an MMA fighter, and Jake wasn't respected as a boxer. But even like the Tommy Fury thing, man, it's just like, if he had really fought Tommy Fury, would you have been surprised if Jake Paul won that fight? Is Tommy Fury really that good? I don't think he is, man. I think he's average. I think he's okay. I don't think Tommy Fury is really that good. I'm leaning towards Tommy Fury to win, but it's like, if Jake were to win, would you be surprised? Would it shock you? I know he's just a YouTuber, but he's pretty decent as a boxer. He's decent. I don't think he's a championship level guy. It's just, he's decent for a guy that is just a YouTuber that happens to box. Like, he's good. If you put him in there with the top guys in his weight, or even some guys that are smaller than him, that are elite level fighters, top 10, top 20 guys, yes, he's going to lose. But they're not fighting those guys. They're fighting ex-MMA fighters. And even though Anderson Silva is very good as a boxer compared to all the other MMA guys, he still fails in comparison to some of the other active fighters that's out there. Boxers, that mean. Ace says Anderson Silva is more dangerous than Tommy Fury. To be honest, man, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not impressed with Tommy Fury. I do think that Anderson Silva, I don't know if he wins the fight, because I think if he fights someone that's really trying to beat him, not Chavez Jr., someone that's really trying to win, you know, I think he loses. All right. And I know I do think that, you know, Silva, and he's very aware of the sport. You know what I'm saying? He knows what he's doing in there. But he brings some of that awkwardness too, because he's naturally an MMA fighter, right? Boxing is just one of the good things, one of the things he's really good at, you know? But at the end of the day, all these fights are weird, bro. I just can't, I don't believe in them, you know? I feel that these fights with Jake Paul, it really involves him just taking advantage of the sport. And I don't blame him. I'm not a Jake Paul hater at all. I don't mad. I told you guys, I'm not mad at what Jake Paul doing. All these YouTubers and these exhibitions between, you know, with Floyd and Pacquiao and all these. You know why I don't care? Because we're not getting the fights we want anyway. You know, I don't care because this sport is becoming a hustle. It's just a hustle. It's not like a real sport to me. Half the time it's not. Yes, we are getting some good fights. We are. You know, Clarissa Shields against Savannah Marshall, that was great. That was great. You know, that was a real fight. You know, Joshua against Usyk, that was great. You know, there are real fights out there. All right? But for the most part, we're not getting what we want. Look what's happening with Spence and Bud. You know, Tank and Ryan, and you know, even Lomachenko and Haney. I mean, hopefully the fight happens, but I'm already in my mind, I don't think the fight's gonna happen. I just don't believe in these fighters no more. It's just a hustle. The whole shit is a hustle. It's a hustle, and it's not, and it trickles down from. I mean, look at the Eddie Hearn situation right now with Conor Ben. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not real. It's like a hustle first. Yes, we do get some real fights, but most of it is drama, is bullshit. Most of it. And it trickles down from the fighters, you know, the politics, you know, the promoters, the sanctioning bodies, and it trickles down to the fighters, and it trickles all the way down to the media, you know, the mainstream media, and even the content creators. It is a hustle. Nobody's honest. Everyone's taking advantage. Everybody's just trying to get paid and eat off this bullshit. You know, I can't even go on YouTube and just look at my just see what people are talking. The whole shit from top to bottom is about Bud and Spence. The whole thing, all the way down. Even when you go on Twitter, you have people just eating off this bullshit. Is just eating off of it, because it's not like this fight scheduled for this week, yet no one's talking about them, because we're gonna eat off this fight not happening. We're gonna eat off the drama. And I get it. Listen, people got to get paid. People got families. I understand. People are going to have to do what they got to do. They got to post what people are looking for. And unfortunately, people are looking for the drama. And I think we as fans need to be held accountable for why the sport is the way it is, because they know that, yo, I'm not going to get you the fight that you want, but we're going to get you a fight anyway. And you're going to support it anyway. You know, I think we're all kind of guilty of it. And these guys that's on YouTube, like Jake Paul, they doing the same shit. They taking advantage of a sport that is just poorly organized. And they're making their money too. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, look, you can't tell me, like, there's a lot of content creators that, you know, or even media folks. There's a lot of people that are just biased. But you can't tell me that some of these people are being paid off what they say. You cannot tell me at this point, you can't tell me that people are not getting paid to post certain things. Like I read an article, I'm not going to say who the writer was. I read an article maybe a week ago, and I said, yo, who the hell paid this guy to write this bullshit? This guy is clearly getting paid to put this up. I mean, I already know like a lot of the content creators are getting paid, but again, this is what I'm saying. Like, you can't tell me that people are not getting backdoor money, you know, getting money under the table type thing. At this point, it's clearly obvious. You know, it's clearly obvious. Um, I want the money. I would love to get paid. I told you guys before, shoot, if I can live off this, that would be great. But I'm not gonna lose my integrity for it. Like, nah, I don't think you can pay me enough to just feed y'all some bullshit. I'll never do it. I'll never do it. All right. I actually love the sport too much for that. I do. So let's talk about this. I have Jake Paul winning this fight. I can't with you guys. I can't. I don't believe in it, man. I think Anderson Silva could beat him. I don't believe in it though. I'm not gonna fall sucker to this. I think Jake Paul is gonna win this fight. I don't know how, but he's gonna do it. All right, because I think Anderson Silva is better, but Jake Paul is gonna win. All right, I saw the weigh-in. Jake Paul looked great in the weigh-in. He actually looked better than he's ever looked at in the weigh-in before. To be honest, physically. All right, so we got Lomachenko against Jermaine Ortiz. I got to get out of here. Lomachenko is coming back. He is taking the year off, and this is gonna be his first fight since he beat Richard Coleman. I think that was last year at some point, right? All right, so that was in December, and then he beat Nakatani in June, right? So he lost his Teofimo Lopez, all right, had the surgery, took about 8 months off, came back for Nakatani for Richard Coleman, and he stopped Nakatani, right? Wasn't expecting that one, but he stopped Nakatani. He beat Richard Coleman, almost stopping him, dropping him and all that. And he took some time off this year because of everything that's going on with the Ukraine. And now he's fighting Jermaine Ortiz. All right. So Loma is what? He's 34 years old now. And he's fighting the young, undefeated Jermaine Ortiz. All right. He's coming off a win against Jamel Herring. And I like this fight, man. I told you it's going to be between this one and the Diaz fight, the Jojo Diaz fight, which gets fight of the night, because Jermaine Ortiz lets his hands go. He is very quick. He's a good athlete. He's a good technical fighter. His fundamentals are intact. And I enjoy watching him, you know? So I really like this fight. And he fought against Jamel Herring and beat him in his last fight, former champion Jamel Herring, who was a southpaw. So, if you want, I did some film study for this, right? Mainly for Jermaine Ortiz, not really for Lomachenko, but for Jermaine Ortiz, I did. And even though Jamel Herring is a southpaw, and you want to see how, Ortiz looks against another southpaw, Herring is just never was really that aggressive. You know what I'm saying? He's just not. And he is, he's retired from that loss now. He just never was physically strong, powerful. He's a very good boxer, but he's always lost. Oh, shit. Charles Edward Cheese in the building, man. Thank you for the super donation, man. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. Or my sister, or whoever you are. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for the donation. Really appreciate that, man. Much love, much support from you, man. Yeah, so Vasil, for every time he dropped that, I can't even think straight. So Jermaine Ortiz, if you want to look at him fight, if you want to see his flaws, you got to look at the Joseph Adorno fight. You got to look at that fight. First of all, I know it's too late. We got all day. There's only hours until the fight. If you're not sure and you didn't put up any bets or anything, If you want to know how to beat Jermaine Ortiz, watch the Joseph Adorno fight. All right. I know Adorno is an orthodox fighter, but as a guy that was able to time Ortiz in between his punches, in between his flurries, and catch him and rock him and hurt him a couple of times, dropping him in the fight. If you're going to look, if you want to look, I know he's not a southpaw, I get it. But if you want to see Ortiz look bad, that's the fight you go to. And by the way, it's a very, very good fight. It ended up being a draw. I checked it out maybe a few days ago. I'd never seen the fight before. It's on YouTube. Watch that fight. That was a good ass fight. Check out Jermaine Ortiz against Joseph Adorno. Very, very good fight, which was a draw. All right. With that being said, I feel like when I think of Ortiz and I compare him to some of the people that Lomachenko has faced up to this point, not going to get what you got out of Nakatani and him, Lopez, Comey. It kind of reminds me of Gary Russell Jr. a little bit. But Jermaine Ortiz is a switcher. And he can fight either stance and look very comfortable with each stance to a point where you don't know which stance he's actually better at. At the two fights that I've seen him fight, I can't tell you which stance he's better at, because I believe in a Herring fight, he fought as a southpaw the majority of the fight. And in the Adorno fight, he fought as an orthodox fighter. He's listed on BoxRec as an orthodox fighter, but he can switch and box a full 12 rounds, which he stands. He's very, very good. But if you want to go and see what a fighter that, Lomachenko has fought that can do similar to what Ortiz can do, I would go all the way back to the Gary Russell Jr. fight, because Gary is very fast hands. You know what I'm saying? He throws a lot of flurries. All right. I think that's a good fight to tell what Lomachenko can be able to do. And I think the main key thing is Ortiz, you want to make him fight going backwards. Yes, he can fight on his back foot a little bit, but I think for Lomachenko coming forward, his chances of winning is so much better against Ortiz. I think if he comes forward, yes, Adorno did fight on his back foot at times to set traps. But I think with Lomachenko, you want to keep pushing against Ortiz, making him fight on his back foot. Yes, Lomachenko has power, but he's not just like this one punch KO artist. I think that guy Adorno was a power puncher, and he caught Ortiz. I'm not saying that Lomachenko can't hurt him. I know Lomachenko is known for stopping people, but I think Lomachenko's chances of hurting Ortiz is if he backs him up and walks him down and just overwhelm him with the pressure. Use those angles, slip those shots, go to the body, and just keep that pressure. Ortiz is not a guy, he likes to let his hands go. He's very technical, but he likes to let his hands go. Again, he likes to throw a lot of combinations. What you want to do is put the pressure on him, force him to fight going backwards, and keep, overwhelming him with pressure. Not, how Loma is. He's a guy that he's going to throw punches, but he's going to mix his power punches in with the lighter punches. So he's going to tag you, boom, boom, boom. He's going to, he's going to hit you with little light shots, but then he's going to mix that up with some of his power shots. And I think that's when he gets that rhythm going at some point. That's when he really gets it going. You know what I'm saying? I think the angles is going to be a real issue for Jermaine Ortiz, but you can't sleep on Ortiz, because if he's the one that's coming forward, which he probably will start out doing, if he comes in forward, he's coming forward, and if he's not getting hit with anything by Loma, that's going to make him have to think and fall back and fight a little smarter. He can have a good shot winning this one based on points because of the higher volume. He's definitely going to throw more punches while he's successful. But if Loma can throw him off and, you know what I'm saying? If Loma can throw him off and outwork him like he normally does his opponents, I think he shouldn't have too much of a problem. I do like Ortiz's chances a little bit more than Nakatani's and Come's, though. But I still think Lomachenko is going to overwhelm him and beat him. David Evans, thank you for the donation, man. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Keep up the great work, mate. Yes, I will. At the best of my ability, I will continue to give you guys good content no matter what. All right, but I have Lomachenko winning this one. I don't know how he's gonna win it, but I do think I like Jermaine Ortiz's chances here a little bit because I do respect him as a technician, and I do think that you know, the amount of punches he throws is gonna look good, because Loma, when he's not like completely overwhelming you, he doesn't look that great. And we saw that in the Lopez fight. But I don't believe that Ortiz since he doesn't have the power as Teofimo did, I don't think Loma is going to be nearly as cautious. You know, Loma's going to get it going a lot earlier than that. You know, and he doesn't even wait that long to get it going most of the time. Outside of the Teofimo Lopez fight, Loma doesn't wait that long to get it going. He did in his earlier professional fights, but not so much in his recent ones. You know, first in the earlier fights, he would wait a couple, 2-3 rounds to really start to get it going. But now, you know, he's usually getting it going like by the end of the first round or maybe the second round at tops. You know, he'll fill you out in the first round, but he starts picking up by the second round. All right, I'm going to read some of the comments, man. I know you guys are leaving a ton of comments. Before I get out of here, I just want to read some of the comments here. What's Good Wook says he's not ready to see the Spider get slept by Jake Paul. I'm not ready for it neither, but this is what he signed up for. At the end of the day, this is boxing, and, you know, I don't want to see it. I didn't want to see it when I saw it in MMA, but at the end of the day, this is what he signed up for. And if it happens, it happens. He's 48 years old at this point. You know, there's a lot of legends that I hated seeing coming back and getting knocked out. You know, it happens all the time. I mean, look what Silva did to Ortiz in his last professional boxing fight. You know, it is what it is. A lot of legend guys, they get knocked out. It is what it is. All right. Beth says this is going to be a great fight. Loma still has some step back problems, crossing his feet every now and then. But Ortiz hasn't fought anyone as good as Loma. Yeah, he hasn't. He hasn't. But they sparred together. And, you know, Ortiz is young. He's undefeated. He's coming off of a good win against the Southpaw, former champion. Not someone on Loma's level. But we never know. You know, I didn't think Loma was gonna lose the only 2 fights that he did lose. You know, so you just never know. You can't sleep on him, and he's getting up there. He's 34 years old. You just never know, and he's been out of the ring all year, right? So, I'm probably gonna put like a little bit of money down on Ortiz just in case I get lucky. That's what Richard V says. He says he's gonna put $10 down on Ortiz because what's his name? Loma is such a heavy favorite to win. So I might put like $20 down or something like that. But I'm not, you know, I think Loma's gonna win the fight. Drinker says, catching on, one thing I have to disagree on, boxing isn't the most corrupt sport on the planet as far as the dives go. Tennis is. Okay. I mean, I'm not a heavy tennis watcher, so if you might be right. I can't argue that because I don't watch tennis very much. You know, I'm very casual when it comes to a tennis. All right. All right. Got Loma a 9th round stoppage here. I think Loma could stop him, you know, because I've seen Ortiz get hurt and I've seen him down. What's good, Woog? Thank you for the donation, man. I appreciate your support, man. And please subscribe to my guy's channel, man. He is a legit boxing channel with actual breakdowns, not a drama channel. So if you care about that, go to his channel and support. Good breakdowns. All right, guys. I gotta get out of here. Unfortunately, I gotta go. I gotta run. I would love to chop it up with you guys longer, but I have to run. But I will give you a review of the fight. I won't be on later tonight, but I will give you a review of the fight very early in the morning, first thing in the morning. If you guys, I'm gonna be up early to do a review tomorrow. So if you guys can get up, I want to talk about all of these fights from today. I might even jump on like super late tonight, but if not, I'll definitely get up first thing in the morning, make some coffee, and jump up and go live with you guys. And then we could talk about some of the other things that's going on in the sport too, because there's a lot of BS going on, but you know, you got to cover some of it. All right. Charles, I ain't drinking anything, man. I'm out of here, man. I gotta run today. I won't be drinking today, but I'll definitely chop it up with you guys early tomorrow morning. Please, if you are new, subscribe to the channel and hit that thumbs up for me. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, smash that like button. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Peace.